I've always envied people that love their work. And I've known plenty of people that really love what they do, can't wait to get to work. A lot of them that have been firemen and they just can't wait to get on shift and the camaraderie and all of that. And I found that to be the case in EMS too back in the day. But it's not for everybody. And I think that in some ways things have changed and things have gotten worse. But in other ways, it's just the way that it was 40 years ago. So I'm going to share this. This is from social media. This was a paramedic who's recently decided to leave EMS, and she left kind of a long note it's being shared by quite a few people in the EMS community. So it was shared with me. So I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll just talk about it briefly. She says, "Today is my last day working full-time on an ambulance. After 10 years, I no longer have a desire to do this job. And that absolutely kills me. The job has changed me. I'm no longer the compassionate, caring, happy person I was when I started. Not without being medicated, anyway. I'm no longer willing to sacrifice my mental and physical health for this job. But that's what's expected of you doing this job. Your employer tells you they care, that your mental health is most important, that you need to take care of yourself first. But you better be willing to do 12-hour shifts nonstop. Don't even think about sitting down for 10 minutes to eat. We have calls pending. No, you can't FaceTime your kids. You haven't got to see all week either. You're expected to work yourself into the ground, call after call after call, for little pay and poor conditions. By the time you get home, you're so mentally drained that you can't even give a little piece of yourself to your friends and family. You start to not be able to care about the things going on with the people that are important to you. You can't relate to people who aren't in this field. You fear that you don't even know if you can do another job or have a normal conversation with someone. This job changes you. For me, it's no longer worth it. I used to think EMS was one of the coolest, most unique jobs out there. You're invited into someone's home on their worst day. You get to meet new people constantly and hear their stories. You get to spend the day with one of your friends, driving around, jamming the music. You're the calm in someone else's storm. You get to look someone in the eyes and promise them you're going to do everything you can to keep them or their loved one alive. And then you do it. You go into autopilot and you do your job. An important job. A job that not everyone can do. People have respect for you and thank you for being there for them. But that's no longer what EMS is. EMS is a taxi to an overcrowded ER that is being used as primary care. We're picking people up for a bellyache, a headache, cold feet, sore throat, knee pain for 3 years, a burning dick. It's so rare that we're actually making a difference in saving a life. The compassion burnout is at its highest. People are leaving EMS in droves. People are finally starting to realize that this job isn't worth it. All the things that made this job fun are no longer fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm lucky to have gotten to do this job. I've learned valuable life skills I wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. I've done things and I've seen things the human mind isn't meant to see day after day. There's been a lot of laughs and some tears. I've met and worked with people along the way that have made me a better person and provider. If I prayed, I pray for everyone still in this field. It's freaking hard. Not physically, but mentally. This job takes everything out of you. But you're still expected to go out there day after day and show compassion to those that are abusing your service. Quote, "We care," unquote. Good luck, y'all. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves first, for real. I'm lucky to be getting out. An extremely difficult decision, but one that will literally save me. So, first thing I'll say is that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this young lady felt the need to exit EMS in order to essentially save herself. It's fortunate, I think, that she was able to recognize the need to leave, because if she stayed, who knows how the story would have turned out. In my last video, I spoke about the ways that we were taught to handle job stress back in the day. Essentially, you handled it yourself. Clearly, there are probably better ways to approach it, but for those working in EMS today, that's how it was back then. So many things mentioned by this paramedic are absolutely true. True today and true 40 years ago. I often said, even way back then, that I had to run 100 calls before I did one truly legit EMS run. The other 99 were essentially taxi rides. Based on what I see happening in the emergency department today, though, there's, on top of that all, the disregard for common courtesy among those who use EMS as a taxi. EMS crews and the ED staff that follow are verbally abused, threatened, and disrespected more than ever. And I say that from someone who has seen it for all of these years. People are different. Culture is different. Seemingly everything is different. But some things are still the same. There's an overuse of EMS. There's an overuse of the emergency department. There's a disrespect and a disregard for our law enforcement. It just goes on, and it's something that I never thought that I would really see it quite this bad, and it's really taking its toll, obviously in EMS, but also as it translates into the hospital. And we have such a hard time keeping nurses and keeping techs and other staff on the job. And I think it's for the same reason. They're seeing and hearing a lot of the same things that this paramedic was talking about. So this paramedic, she worked for 10 years in EMS. And it's not a short amount of time for any job, but especially, I think it's fairly long for EMS nowadays. She says how much the job has changed her, and I understand that. It changes everyone. It makes you want to stick with your own people and not venture outside your group because no one will understand. I mentioned again in my last video about the critical incident stress debriefing that became all the rage back in the late 90s and probably continues today. But that's for the big stuff, really, for the mass casualty incidents, for the things that most likely make the news. Assuming it's helpful to someone, it definitely isn't there for the daily encounters, the little tiny things that surprisingly add up. I mean, I truly believe that you have to rely on your colleagues to maintain your mental health. Humor goes a long way, and you have to have that in order to survive. You'll naturally feel occasionally uncomfortable among people who don't do what you do because there's so much comfort in being around those who understand, even if you don't talk about it. If you're someone who's thinking about working in healthcare, especially in EMS, try to find one or two people who are willing to give you an honest assessment of the risks and the rewards of that type of profession. It's not for everyone, but let's face it, what is? I mean, sometimes you don't know unless you try. And if you're a compassionate soul, you may be just the person who can make a difference in someone's living room at 2 o'clock in the morning or on the side of the road on a cold, snowy night. And for this paramedic whose story we shared, I hope after taking some time to reflect and recover and get back in a better place, that she considers rejoining the healthcare team in some other capacity. Her experience and wisdom is valuable, but she needs to realize that. And I hope she does. Share your thoughts on this young paramedic's letter and comment on it below. And please consider subscribing to the channel if you found this interesting and giving the video a like as well. So until we speak again, have a good night.